Mon, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Adam. This is odd.
It's been a minute.
It's been, a few minutes, months.
It has been a few minutes. So update the listeners. You've moved on from the podcast. Why? Because you hate me.
No, he's a good guy. Why did I move on from the podcast? Life just kind of threw me a few spanners. I think when I started doing the podcast with you, I didn't really know what I was doing. Like I didn't really have a set plan. But then I think it was like in the space of 2 months, everything completely pivoted and shifted for me. And this small project that I was kind of doing on the side, which was working with this woman in Kenya to build a school over there, it just started consuming my life. And the more and more I kept delving into it and like working on it, I realized, this is actually what I want to be doing for the rest of my life. So from the time that we finished up that last episode together to now,
how long has it been?
It's been over 3 months, 3 or 4 months. I've been back to Kenya. I spent 7 weeks over in Africa, spending time with Helen and the community and the school and the kids, and just trying to wrap my head around, well, what is the work that actually has to be done?
Let's run it back to who Helen is, who the kids are, and what is actually
should have listened to the other episode though where I spoke it. No.
We're assuming no one listened to the other episode and we're listening to this.
Okay. So Helen is a woman that I met at the end of last year. So actually this goes way back to the start of last year. Pretty much I was doing a YouTube channel where I was going around asking people, if you had a year to live, what would you do? From that series, I ended up meeting this random woman who had this dream. She wanted to fulfill her daughter's dream of going to Africa to see the elephants in the wild. And I went and I made that happen. Got it sponsored. We flew over to Kenya, had this incredible trip over there. I didn't really have any expectations because the trip wasn't for me. It was for Kerry and her fulfilling this dream of her daughters. And then whilst I was there, I met Helen and I started to see this community and this culture over there. And I was talking about this the other day actually to somebody. It was like a part of my soul started healing while I was there, and I didn't understand it at the time whilst I was there, what was happening. And it just sounded like a really incredible woman doing a really incredible thing, amazing story. And there was a part of me that was just screaming, like, you need to help, like you need to do something. And back then when I was doing YouTube kind of as like a full-time sort of thing, as in uploading videos weekly, I knew that the community that I'd fostered over 4 years could actually do something to help because they're a very, very loyal community. Shout out to my YouTube fam. So after that trip, I got back and I thought, well, they obviously need money right now, so I'm going to try and do this fundraiser. And I decided in January of this year to raise $30,000, and I set a time frame of 30 days, so $1,000 a day. And we did it. Like, I think literally it was like we had about 25 minutes left and there was like $600 to go. And then a friend of mine that was on that tour with us who'd met Helen, he pretty much put in the last amount. So we ended up raising the money. But to give you context of what actually happens over there and why Helen has started this movement, in Kenya, there's 46 different tribes, right? So as a country, they are Christians, like very, very big Christians. But within each tribe, they pretty much follow their own set of laws. So they're very cultural people. They've got very strong beliefs. They've got traditions that have dated, back hundreds and hundreds of years. And in the Maasai culture, which is one of the 46, they still believe that a girl is pretty much property of a man. So when a girl is anywhere between the ages of 9 to 13, she gets traded for 3 cows because cows are viewed as their currency over there. And once they've been traded, they get cut, meaning like female genital mutilation. And then a year after they've been cut, they're married off to older men. So it's a very outdated practice and tradition. And in 2000, and I think it was 13 or 11, it was actually female genital mutilation by the Kenyan government was made illegal. And so it kind of stopped for a period of time, but then COVID happened. And when girls were kind of released from school and had to go back home, it started happening behind closed doors and obviously unhygienic, like kind of in the back of sheds, And in Kenya, like you can imagine, it's hard. They live in poverty. So infections happen, diseases happen. Some of them die. Helen had rescued one girl actually during that COVID period. She was 13 when she was taken to hospital with her husband. And early marriage is also illegal over there. So if a male is caught with a child and is legally married to her, he'll get sent to jail. She went into the hospital and they took one look at her and she was pregnant and she was 13 years old and she miscarried. And the husband was put in jail on the spot. The authorities came and took him away, but it's still happening. So Helen had this happen to her. So she's a victim of FGM and early marriage. And it was I can't remember how old she was, but she was rescued by a nun. Then this nun who taught her English put her through school and Helen became a teacher. And she started teaching at schools, but seeing what was happening within her community, and her voicing her opinion and trying to like change the whole outlook on how they view women and girls. She'd get beaten, she'd get, abused. So she, being her, she was like, well, fuck you all. I'm just going to go do it myself. Yeah. And she did. She went and started the Nkatanga School, which means the Purple Cow School. And when you ask her, why did you call it Purple Cow School? She always says like cows are their currency. Obviously they're seen as like a national treasure. But do you ever see a purple cow? She was like, I am the purple cow. So she started the Nkatanga School and then was taking in girls, rescuing girls. Girls were brought to her sometimes by family members. And she would just try to find donors and sponsors and she'd teach them English, she'd teach them anything the Kenyan government, the curriculum puts out is what she follows. So she doesn't just go rogue and teaches, whatever she wants. She follows a strict curriculum because that then creates the pathways for these kids to go to uni or high school, then uni and develop careers. So she'd started that and then she pretty much bought this whole block of land on acreage and she put this widow's village there. So she created they live in mud huts pretty much. The huts are made from cow dung, ash, like from fire and water. And because the other thing with the Maasai culture is when a woman is married off, they're legally not allowed to get divorced or remarry. So she becomes a widow at 15 because her husband's 60 and she's got 2 kids. She can't go and remarry. She can flee her like community and go to a different community and try to remarry, but she'll never be allowed back into that community. So she'd pretty much have to leave her family and everyone she knows, and they just can't survive like that. And so she started teaching the women skills, sewing, making beads, just ways for them to go to markets and sell things. So then she did that, and then she had like really, really young kids coming to her because a lot of these widows were bringing their children to the village. So then she's like, well, I need a place for these kids to start learning. So she started the Tepasua School, which is a school that runs from the ages of 3 to they get to about grade 3, and then they move on to the Nkatanga School, which is grades 4 to 8, and then after that they move to high school. And then when she started seeing tourists coming, because you have to go past her village pretty much to go to the Maasai Mara, and the Maasai Mara is why people go to Kenya or Tanzania to see, the elephants and all the animals on safari. She got approached by Intrepid Travel, a travel group who wanted to use basically her campsite that she'd built for one night for the tourists to stay for a night. So then there was this whole other element where she was like, all right, if I'm going to get Westerners here, I'm going to get them to stay here. They're going to see the culture. They'll experience everything. And then that's how she started getting donors from the Western world. So that was doing really well. And then obviously COVID happened and then everything turned to shit. And she took like 10 steps backwards because she'd lost so many donors because the girls weren't going to school anymore. But they failed to realize that she runs boarding schools. So the girls don't leave. They stay there with her. So there was a lot of debt that she'd accumulated because a lot of the girls she couldn't actually feed, girls and boys. She's been taking in boys as well now. So she started sending them to other schools to look after so that they could get fed. So when we were there just recently in April, I kind of learned all of that stuff that I obviously didn't know, because the last time I was there, I had literally one day with her. So it was cool to get her perspective on, like, it's all well and good to try and, you know, build a school and build another classroom, but like, I can't even keep these kids alive. I can't even educate these kids right now. So it kind of was this eye-opening thing where I was like, you can have all the good intentions to help a person, but if the foundations aren't laid right, you're setting yourself up for complete failure in the future, because if she can't manage this now, then we need to help her put and implement things now to have that longevity and sustainability in the future. So that's a bit about Helen. There's so much I can say about her and what she's done, because she is the most incredible human being. And I think the thing I love about her so much is she will tell you these stories. Like, you'll sit there, and we spent like hours around a fire talking to her about all these stories that she has and everything she's up against. And, you know, she'll always be like, I go to Helen back 3 times a week. Like, I literally visit the devil 3 times a week, and then I come back and have to like deal with all this shit up here. But she does it with such a like sense of humor and optimism. And it's so incredible, because that's just how they are over there. They don't look at, oh, my life sucks. It's like, life's hard. But like, someone's probably got it worse off, or I'm just really grateful that I've got the opportunity to meet you and talk to you, and, you know, I'm lucky that I have food tonight. So
is that a cultural thing?
Yeah, I think it is. I think I went to a few places in Africa on this trip, and everybody that I'd encountered, it's that, because I think the less you have, you live with what you need. You don't live beyond your means, you know? So they don't know about the Kardashians. They don't know about, you know, half the shit that we have here or anything like that. Like cameras, we would pull cameras out and all the kids would be like, oh, whoa, what's that? Like, some of them have never seen a camera. The Nkateng Leper School, we had a donor here from Geelong actually donate iPads that we took over. And just recently, the Kenyan government has, and the Kenyan government favours city kids. So the biggest cities like Nairobi that have access to all these things, that's who they kind of cater for. They don't think about these rural kids who don't have anything, that are playing with sticks. We'd brought over these iPads, and Helen had said, oh, there was only 14 of them, and there's 168 students, right? She's like, this has come at the perfect time, because the Kenyan curriculum's just changed. And they've introduced computers as what's it called? Like a program. And we walked into their computer lab. And do you remember like in primary school when you'd have the old Windows box computers with the keypads that like sound like that? That's what they were using, right? And I'm looking at her going, how are you supposed to teach these kids about computers when like, A, you don't have any, B, the one you do have is from like 1994. And she said, we usually just print out pictures of keyboards, and that's how they learn to type.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's how they're learning. So then, you know, when I think about, okay, how do we like help excel that? It's like, you're going to have to get a whole another team over there of IT people and, you know, computer technicians that are going to have to teach them and basically implement all this stuff. So there's just so many moving pieces and factors that kind of came to light being there in April. And I'd taken a team over with me. So I had Ange, who's going to be the creative director of the brand. Her partner, he's an architect. So he's actually drawing the plans for what we want to do in the future. And then I brought a photographer with me as well, who was experiencing it for the first time. And yeah, like they just could not believe that. It's this weird thing where you know what happens. Like, we've seen photos, we've seen videos, like, you know that this shit is going on. Like, kids are playing with rocks or, you know, all of that. But when you're actually there and you see that they don't get to wake up tomorrow and just go home. Like, I go there for a week. I go, shit, this is so horrible. This is so bad. Like, my heart breaks for them. But I get to come home to this. That's their reality every single day. Like, there's almost this point of how do they thrive when the system's up against them? Their mentality is to just survive, which makes them so resilient. So yeah, it was really interesting just like having the chance to speak to, you know, not just Helen and the kids, but also the Maasai warriors as well. Like they're all just young boys. And it's crazy because every kid that you ask there, like, do you know what you want to do when you're older? Do you have a dream? There's 4 things that they will say. It's like they're the only 4 occupations that they know exist in the world. And this was really like, whoa, they don't know what's possible. They don't know that you could be a photographer. They don't know that you could make a living being an actor or, you know, whatever. But their 4 things would either be a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, or a pilot. No shit. That was the only 4 things that they would say. And I said to Helen, I'm like, pilot is really interesting. Like, where does pilot come from? And she goes, they look up in the sky and they say plane.
Right.
And so when they say they want to see the world, they think the only way I can do that is if I become a pilot. So it's all of that. It's like little things that we kind of take for granted because we have access to just so much, whether it's knowledge, whether it's technology, whether it's, you know, clean water, all those simple basic human needs that they have to fight for, you know? So yeah, it was really, I mean, my life felt like a movie for 7 weeks because the shit that we were experiencing, like you just don't experience that sort of stuff in life. And Ange actually came up to me on the second day and she was like, dude, I finally get it. And I'm like, get what? And she goes, I understand everything that you say when you come back and you talk about Helen, you talk about this community and this culture. Like, I get it. And I get that you can't actually put it into words. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God someone else finally fucking understands.
Yeah. It's like a lot of transformative experiences you can't put into words.
You can't. You know, my favorite moment from that whole trip, like the whole trip, and there were so many incredible moments, but there was this one night where we had the best time with the warriors. Like they really cracked open towards like, in the middle of the trip, they just started like letting down their guards, literally. Like they put down their shields, physically put down shields and like hung out with us and we're like having a laugh. But we were hanging around the campfire after dinner one night and everybody was like laughing and giggling and, you know, they were trying to learn English. We were trying to teach them English. They were trying to teach us Maasai. And I just like paused and kind of stepped back and looked at this group of people that had just met. Day one, they knew of us as just the Mzungus, which means foreigners. But then they're calling us by our Maasai names. They gave us all Maasai names. I got mine tattooed on me. I am Nasha. Mine's Nasha. And I was like, there is so much love and respect in this circle right now for strangers that just met like 3 days ago. And none of us can put together a sentence in either Maasai or English, but for some reason we're all communicating. We all understand each other. We all respect each other. And it was like this weird moment where I was like, this is what love feels like. Like this is honestly what love feels like. And if you can emulate this feeling with the people that are close to you, where sometimes you don't even need to speak, sometimes just their presence is enough. Like that, I came back and I was like, I looked at the people that I surround myself with and was like, I want to feel that. I want to emulate that. I want to be love, but I want to give love, but I also want to be able to receive and feel that kind of love.
So what made it different?
I think it was like, we saw each other just for who, like they didn't know half the shit that I do back home. I don't know their stories unless I sat there and I listened and I asked the right questions and vice versa. Whereas I think here it's different because you see what I do, what I post on Instagram and you think you know everything about me or you think you know a huge element of my life, but really, and I thought about this a lot when I got home because everybody, you know, when they bombard you, like, how's your trip? Like, rah, rah, rah. And I realized like you never get to talk to someone for the very first time about the experience because they've seen fragments of it and they've made their own kind of narrative or perception of what you would have experienced. Whereas I have a friend who's not on social media at all. And I was most excited to sit down and talk to them because they didn't know a fucking thing. They didn't see a thing of my trip. And that conversation was like so energizing and exciting because they were genuinely excited to hear everything for the very, very first time. So I think it was an element of that. And there was just no judgment anywhere, you know, like even if we mucked up words, they would like giggle and laugh, but they'd like keep trying to help you, you know, and vice versa. They were so eager to learn English because it's a necessity for them now. So they do anything to sit down with you for 2 minutes. And if you gave them 2 minutes of your time trying to teach them how to say, hello, my name is, and I like the color blue, they were forever grateful. So there was this element of like gratitude, respect, it's like the simple things that we just forget about here because, yeah, it's all about us. Whereas for them, it's all about like, no, I want to give to you. Like I want to know you. I want to get to know you as a person. So yeah, I think that when I think about it, that's what I feel it was, but could be 101 other things too.
For sure. Wow. So run me through what happened. You raised the money and then you went to Africa. What was the goal when you went back to Africa?
It was to sit down with Helen and actually ask her what she wants. Because
what does she want?
She wanted first of all to clear all the debts that she had accumulated over COVID.
How much?
It was small. It was like $4,000. From one school, it was $4,000, but it was also good to sit down with her and actually understand what's it actually take to run 2 schools. Like what are you looking at yearly when you factor in teacher salaries, when you factor in food, again, boarding schools, so they have to have 3 meals a day, uniforms, shoes, actual school fees, textbooks, everything. Like when you factor all that in, it's about $250,000 USD to run both schools that have 168 kids together.
How much is that per kid?
I did do the math. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But it was funny because I got back
How many kids?
168 at the moment.
So $1,600 per kid per year.
Yeah.
So how does she pay that at the moment? Just all through donations?
Through sponsors and donors. She has a couple bigger companies that like send her more money, like not just sponsor a child, they'll like send money. The Kenyan government does help her out here and there. Intrepid, when they come and they stay at the camp, they also contribute to like the school fees and all that. And yeah, but a majority of it is reliant on public donations.
And how does she get donations usually at the moment?
This is what is shooting her in the foot. The system's like so clunky because she doesn't have a website. If you wanted to go and sponsor right now, you would need to basically set up a Western Union thing and send it straight to the Tepesua bank account, which people hesitate because they're like, oh, I'm sending money to Kenya. Like, I don't know, is this actually going to the kids? Is this actually... So we're in the process now of building her a website so that if she was to get people coming through, like through Intrepid, the first point of call would be the website directly gets donated straight to them, and that's it. You don't have to worry about Western Unions and PayPal.
I hate Western Union so much.
Yeah,
so shit.
And it's a shame because she had a website that she'd paid for, and the person that did it for her was like from in Kenya. Put down the PayPal account as their own. So sponsors were sending money and she wasn't seeing it because this person had like literally stolen money from her. You know, and that's what they're up against as well. And the thing is, and she says it all the time, she's like, I don't know any better. Like I don't have an education in this sort of stuff. Like I'm obviously going to take this person's word for it. And that's just it. Whereas here we go, oh my God, you should have done this check. You should have done this. They don't think to do that because they're just not exposed to that sort of stuff. So there's like a blessing in it, but there's also that. Like you need to be up to date with everything. So that's what we're working on at the moment as well. On top of
pretty straightforward to do.
Yeah, except it's hard to do it from Australia. Like for me to try and do that, to set up a website for her to have money sent to her bank account is difficult because I need a payment gateway, and the payment gateway won't do it because I need, they will if I'm a registered charity, and I'm not yet. I'm in the process of.
Why don't you just start with Bitcoin?
They don't have that. tech like that. It's not. It's a whole nother. I've explored I've got people like literally working on solutions. I think the only solution will actually just be, for now that I can think of, is me just setting up as a charity, registered, all of that, and then the money just gets sent to her. Because she's the only project that we're working with at the moment. So everything, and my focus actually got redefined as well, because there was another project I was going to take on in Uganda, but I actually went there and it was like a hard no for me, and I'll talk about that later. But yeah, so everything that we do now is purely to build this school with 12 classrooms and to actually use them as make it sustainable and use it as a framework as well. So in 5 years' time, if another project does come along that's of similar nature, where it's kind of already half set up, they just need actual assistance with, IT departments, accounting, blah, 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 and then also the actual school infrastructure, we know what we're kind of dealing with and what we're doing. So it's a lot of work, and I realized hard and fast that like I will do this forever because it's too much work.
It's a lot, yeah.
To just want to do it for a year and be like, all right, I'm done. Like you wouldn't. Like, I understand now why people don't start charities. I understand now why it's so fucking hard to help people sometimes, because either there are people making it extremely difficult for you to just do it, or like I said, the infrastructures just aren't in place to make it seamless and easy. Like, it's too clunky. And also people are kind of sick of people making other people feel guilty for not being a good person to donate money. So that's the challenge I'm up against, where my team that I've kind of got that are helping me build this, there are strict guidelines as to how to talk, what to say, how to present things. What I definitely don't want you to do, like, I don't want you to say the word donate. I want you to find another way to like actually make people feel like they're a part of something more than just a dollar bill. Because essentially, what I'm trying to instill in people is what you're gifting people isn't just $50. You're gifting them like opportunity. You're gifting them hope. You're actually a part of something much bigger than just, oh, I'm going to give you this $50 and then I'm probably never going to see, where it's actually gone, what's actually happened to it. And that transparency story that is around a lot of charities at the moment, which it should be, I'm bored of it. I'm tired of it. Like, you should just be doing it. Why are we trying to like create these stories now being like, oh, we're 100% transparent. Okay, cool. Show me what that looks like. Don't just tell me that you're 100% transparent. Like, show me the work. Like, are you on the ground? Like, what's actually going on? So it's just like reframing and using, concepts that I've seen some charities that have done really, really well. Like, Charity Water is my biggest kind of inspiration, but I want to be nothing like them. I'm like, it's done. Like, they've done an incredible job with what they've done. They've, helped so many people. They've story told in a way that no other charity ever done. I am the next thing. I'm going to be the next charity that's done what I'm the modern day Charity Water. Like, I'm doing something completely different. So I said to the team, I was like, I want to find a way to combine art and charity. Like, how do you do this in a way? And I don't have all the answers at the moment, but how do we do this? How do we approach this in a way that makes the locals the heroes? We're just the assistants essentially. But I just want to get people excited to be a part of this. Because every single person that has, the guys that came with me on the trip, but to the people that contributed to the GoFundMe that, are getting comms sent to them about the actual impact that they've made, because they've met the kids now. Like, we filmed each of the kids that we sponsored, that this money went to. They've got that kind of emotional connection now to them. They want to see how they're doing for the rest of the year. They want to see how their grades are improving. They want to see. So factoring all that into how we're going to do stuff with, say, the website that's going to get built. There's potentially an app that we're in the process of creating as well that's going to take it that next step further for you to actually build a connection with these kids. You're not just sponsoring a kid, you're sponsoring a dream. Like, this kid's got a dream and you're going to be the person that's actually going to help them get there because of your $50 that's contributed to that opportunity for them to actually get there. So Yeah, and I think that's why I love doing it so much, because I get to combine my love of storytelling in a way that's purposeful, that's meaningful, that isn't just me kind of sitting in front of a camera talking about shit that I'm like, I actually don't care about this.
Yeah.
And then being able to physically see the impact you make. It's like, it's the best feel. Like, I don't have the words to put it into a way where a person would understand, because it's a feeling. It's an experience where you do kind of have to be there to experience it. But like the last day that we were there, we took over a suitcase full of gifts, right, that were donated, that we just went out and we purchased. And there was nothing to it. There was like pens and pencils, soccer balls. There was like a few little games here and there. And when that suitcase opened and the kids, they were all like crowding around looking at what was inside, it was like the best day they've ever had. They've ever fucking had. And we were playing with this like parachute game. I don't know if you ever played with it in primary school. You know, where you like put all the like light balls in the parachute.
You shoot them up. And, yeah.
The screaming, like they were so excited. And then when those 2 soccer balls came out and we pumped them up, that was it, game over. They didn't give a shit about anything else. They just cared about the soccer balls. It's just like those little things where you can see so much joy and excitement in a kid. And for me, I almost want to just go back to that, like the ease of just feeling simple joys in life. And do you know what, Adam? Like when I got back, I was so different. Like when I was at the end of the trip about to come home, and everyone was like, how are you feeling about going home? And I was like, I don't really know. Like I'm excited to go back to home to my routine and, you know, see my family, blah, blah, blah. But I just am battling with this whole notion of, I need to remember that everything is relative. I need to remember that, you know, the single mum back home who might have a roof over her head and might have assistance and might have, you know, clean water, but she's also got 2 mouths to feed and she's working 3 jobs. Like that's struggle. That's fucking hard.
And she's also anchoring on what other people are doing.
Yeah.
So if there's this reference that someone's having a great life down the road, you're depressed. But if you don't know, it doesn't.
Exactly. So who am I to compare that mother with 2 kids versus a mother in Kenya with 2 kids who's literally got nothing? You can't.
Probably the same pain.
Yeah, it is.
On an emotional level.
It's suffering, it's survival, it's the same thing. So that I was very well aware of. But I don't know, there was almost like this fear of coming home, because then it would be seeing people who were just wasting things, resources, money, and me going, oh my God, do you know what $100 could do? Do you understand? So that's always a challenge for me to come back home, to be like, well, how do I explain that in a way that's not attacking to a person? They're not going to feel guilty or bad for the hard-earned money that they've earned, that they can do whatever they want with, that they can spend. That's always the challenge. But I think the thing that started to happen more so was kind of going back to that moment at the campfire where I kind of stood back and just saw the simplicity of like joy through the communicating that was happening between 2 cultures that literally couldn't speak to each other for longer than 25 seconds. I kind of came back and started just experiencing those little moments of joy here in ways that I've never experienced it. Like I wake up every morning at 4 a.m., as you know, and I go to the gym, and I would catch myself at the gym like halfway through going, I'm so fucking excited to go home right now and eat my oats that I've been eating for 4 years straight. Like my breakfast hasn't changed for 4 years.
Yeah.
But it was like this overwhelming like sense of joy. Like my body was radiating. And then at night, like sometimes I like in the middle of the week, it's just so random. I like in the middle of the week after I go to the gym, because I go twice, I'll do my cardio at night. I like just being by myself, going to the supermarket and walking up and down the aisles.
I do that all the time.
Right?
So fun.
And just like knowing the foods that I'm going to eat. But now there was this sense of this food that I'm going to eat is literally like a gift. I'm lucky that I get to eat it. It's so nutritious. It's so healthy. I'm going to consume it and I'm going to feel so great for it. Like this is helping me, you know, get stuff done tomorrow. This is helping me, you know, be healthy and strong and fit and whatever.
That's a good way to think.
I've never thought like that before though. So I could see the change. I clear cut was like, this has never happened before. I have never felt this before. And even like visions and stuff were getting like very, very strong because I'm such a visual person. I started visualizing things that I wanted, and they just started happening. Like I got home and I spent literally all my money, gave away most of it. But my mum came home and when I got home, my mum was like, so what's the deal with money? And I'm like, it's coming. And she was like, what do you mean it's coming? I'm like, Mum, don't worry, like it's fine. And then the next day I got a job offer, like as in just for 6 hours, 1 gig, just filming, no editing, nothing. And it was like an easy, like couple grand. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, I'm sweet. On to the next. And so that kept happening. And then, you know, 3 days later, before I'd left, I'd said to myself, I know the website I want. I know what it looks like. I know how it's going to have to function. It's probably going to cost me $60K for this kind of thing because it's pretty much going to be a self-made, like engineered website. And everyone was like, how are you going to do it? Like, where's the money going to come from? I'm like, don't worry, it'll come. Like someone will pop into my life and I'll be like, yep, you're the guy or you're the girl and I'm going to do it. And then I got back, completely forgot it. I forgot I even said that. I got back and one of my friends is like, I got really big news for you. And I was like, oh shit, what? And he's like, I've got someone who's going to build a website for you. And I was like, oh, cool. Contact, easy, sweet. And he's like, no, he's going to build you the website. And I was like, sick, like when I'm ready to go, I'll let you know. And he's like, no, Mon, you're not listening. Like he's going to build it for you. And I'm like, how much is he going to do this for? Not even half. Like it's like a quarter of the price of what I want, but it's going to be done exactly how I want it. And my friend says to me, she's like, how the fuck do you do this? Like you literally ask for it. And I'm like, that's all it is you ask for it. Like you ask for it. And if the intention is there and it's pure and it's good, you're going to get it given. Like, yeah. So when everybody asks me now, how are you supposed to find $250,000 every year just to support them so they can go to school? Like that's just like running costs. That's not even trying to build the school. That's additional on top. And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, what do you mean you don't know? I don't know. I don't know the steps to get there, but I see the vision. The vision is so clear and vivid to me that all I have to do is get through today and keep making the little steps and moving forward and doing it all with as much as I know right now, and it'll happen. And I keep just proving that to myself. And it's become a matter of, I don't need to prove that to people anymore because I'm now living proof of it. They see it and they go, oh, she's done it again. Whoop, she's done it again. Whoop, she's done it again.
But that's inspiring for others.
Yeah. And I've said to like my team at the moment, I don't have the answers. I couldn't tell you a solid 5-year like step-by-step plan. And, you know, if someone's going to look at me and go, that's not a good leader, that's not, you know, you should know this, fine, I don't give a shit. Like say that if you want. But what I can promise you 110% that you will always get from me is I will always fucking try to find the answer. Like I will always try to find a way to make it happen. And that is the premise of why this charity is called Always a Way, because there's always a way to make something happen if you're just willing to try. If you're willing to put yourself out there, if you're willing to ask the question, and if you're willing to take what is rightfully yours also. So, you know, it's cool. When I came back, I realized hard and fast how much I embody that, how much every single person that is helping me grow this thing embodies that philosophy, and how much Helen embodies it, because the root of this whole thing started with this woman in Kenya. So everything just aligns. Everything feels right. Everything is kind of falling into place. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Guess we're doing this now.
Off the list. Let's go on to the next thing. Yeah, so I think my eyes are just a lot more open in ways that have never been open before. And I'm feeling things a lot harder and faster, and it's overwhelming sometimes. But I just have to keep reminding myself, like, do you love doing this? Yeah. Are you doing it for a good reason? Yeah. Like, if that is good and that is still feeling great, then it's fine. Like, you're doing okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So where's he from here?
So from here, I potentially will be going back at the end of the year. But like I said, the plans are being drawn at the moment to kind of give back to Helen for 12 classrooms. So
we've gone from 1 to 12.
She's currently got 4 at Te Pasua.
Okay. Yep.
She wanted another 4, but now we're trying to do it so there's a potential to like expand and go up. She also wants to move. So the way that it's laid out is Tepesua, the community where the nursery school is 4 kilometers away from Enkantenglepa. So she wants to actually move that school into the same vicinity so it's all together. So that's one big thing that we're going to work on doing.
You get scale, you get everything costs less because you've got scale.
Exactly. There's like little programs and stuff that we're looking at trying to do as well, like food programs. She said to us that they had like a honey program where honey, they would have bees, they would beekeep them. The widows would look after these bees. Then they'd sell the honey for good money at the market. You know, there's all these like little ways of keeping things within their culture and letting them lead the way, because it would be so wrong for me to just waltz in and be like, right, we're doing it this way, this way, this way, this way. Don't give a shit about if you like it or not. It's going to be this way because I know this stuff's going to make the most money. But they're so good. They're so open to ideas. But I'm very cautious of not trying to destroy their culture in the process, which is, again, what Helen does. You know, their school uniforms, for example. They have traditional school uniforms that are Maasai colours and clothing that they have to wear on Mondays, and then on Fridays they wear, and every other day they wear their normal like school uniform. That's another thing we've got to like look at. Their school uniforms at the Tepesua school are just like red clothing, but everything has holes in them. Their shoes have holes in them. Shoes are a big issue because some kids walk 4 hours every day to get to school. And if they get injured, if they get hurt, if they have to run away from a lion, like that's a reality.
Is that a risk?
That's a risk.
Jesus Christ.
That is a risk. And they don't have shoes. They trip, they fall, they hurt themselves. That prevents them from going to school. They get cuts. Cuts lead to infection. Infection, can't afford medication, can't go to school. So it's like things that we just you wouldn't even think. I remember when I came back and I said, shoes is a big issue. We have to tackle this shoe problem. And they're like, shoes? Why shoes? Because they need fucking shoes in the terrains that they walk in. So yeah, there's all that. There's the whole IT, computer, tech side of it as well. There's the website side of it. There's so many moving pieces, and that's the part that gets overwhelming. Because if I sit here as I'm speaking, I'm like, oh my God, this is huge. This is not just little Yeah, the food is another problem. There's not enough food, and inflation has caused everything to skyrocket over there. Like they're paying for 90 kilos of beans, 150 USD, and 90 kilos will get them like a month's worth. That's a lot of money for them for beans. Which means like if they have to cut down on portions, the kids aren't getting enough nutrients now to go to school.
Yeah.
So then if they're not getting the nutrients and they're tired and drowsy, they're not going to learn as well. And then hygiene, So I try not to like get too caught up in all of that, but I do, it's what I'm constantly thinking about. And I just kind of put my faith in I kept saying, I've been given this task for a reason. I can't fail because the universe is on my side. Like if I'm going to do this, then I've got the full support of the universe telling me like, we've put you in this position. We've given you this opportunity. We've given you the right people. You just got to like do the work. That's fine. And a good story, side note, where that became very evident. And I think it was the moment that I realized like I understand what faith is. I understand what unwavering faith feels like, was when I went to Uganda. So in Uganda, I had gone over because there was an organization or a orphanage that we helped save. They were about to shut down, so we sent money out. When I say we, always away. Sent money over to keep the lights on pretty much. And I'd said to the assistant director, look, if I'm going to help you, I want to be able to come and see it. Like I need to actually visually see what I'm up against, you know, what work has to be done, meet the kids, meet the teachers, whatever. And I was kind of misled a lot of the way. So when I went by myself. Probably shouldn't have done that. White female going to this rural village. And when I say rural, I was living in the slums. I was not in a hotel. I was not in like this nice guest house. I was living amongst the slums. I didn't care. I was like, well, this is also what I signed up for. I'm not going to cry about it. But looking back at it now, it was dangerous. Like the day I went, the Prime Minister got shot by his bodyguard.
His bodyguard.
Like it's, yeah. And even my Uber driver, when I was in Johannesburg, was like, oh, you're going to Uganda by yourself? And I was like, yeah. He's like, that's brave. And I was like, bro, do you want 5 stars or not? Because I wouldn't be saying that right now. Yeah. So seeing the level of poverty that was there, I'd never experienced that. That shook me to the core because that
more
was
than Kenya.
Mm-hmm. I was sheltered in Kenya because staying with Helen, because she'd westernized kind of her facilities and the camp and all that, it didn't seem as bad. Like it was bad, but not as bad. But then I went to Uganda and I saw this village that I was like staying in, and I was the only white person in this entire district. So walking the streets, like I was getting yelled at, I was getting screamed at, like people were walking super close to me, like touching me and stuff. And again, I was like, I'm new. They don't see this often. I get it. I understand that it's like, whoa, white person here. Like, what the fuck is she even doing here? But there was this moment where I was walking with this kid and he had no shoes. Like his t-shirt was completely torn. Like literally could see infections like on his fingers and stuff like that. And he was walking with a plastic like Coke bottle that was cut in half. And I was like, oh, maybe it's like a toy that he's playing with. I don't know. And then we were walking and we walked past this puddle and the kid just like scooped up the water and just like drank the water from a puddle. And I looked at this puddle and I could clearly see mosquitoes and like worms in there. And I've watched videos, I've seen people talk about this, but to physically observe it and this kid think that this was absolutely normal and okay, I was just like, oh my God, like this is a whole nother level. This is not even, so there were instances like that was happening in Uganda. But I think the heartbreaking thing for me when I was there was I realized I actually can't help them right now. Like I can't, there's too much that has to be done here. And with the corruption that's here, I could give them all my resources. I could drown money into this place, but it would just go. And it's probably going to leave them worse off because then they'll become reliant on money that, you know, will stop coming in because there's no impact that's actually being made. I'm putting a Band-Aid on all these other problems and not actually solving the root cause of it. But I don't even know how to get to the root cause in this case. And it made me grateful, like looking back at Helen going, oh, she's got her shit together. Like,
yeah, she's put 20 years.
That's like, she's got an accountant. Like she's like set up. And me being there thinking she's not set up. We don't know how am I going to do this, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, and I was kind of the whole trip in Uganda, I just kept saying to myself, like, why am I here? I don't know why I'm here. Like, okay, I'm here to see the orphanage, but I just feel like I'm failing. Like I'm looking around everywhere going, fuck, I can't do anything. I can't do anything. And there was this moment that clicked in my head and it was like, because you're not supposed to do anything right now. Like you're not supposed to be here to help these people right now. And that sounds horrible, but you can't help them if you can't help yourself. If you're not set up at all, how the fuck are you supposed to like make any impact here? And I think the realization of I do not want to Band-Aid things. I want to set things up so that there is that sustainability piece where they don't rely on me. They don't rely on my organization. They're funding their own programs. They're funding their own, you know, livelihood because we came in and we helped with the framework of it. But then they're doing the work. Whereas there, it was like no one would be willing to do the work. They just kind of want the handouts, which is not going to be beneficial for anybody in the long run. So there was that harsh realization of, okay, so I came here to see this and that's fine. And there was one moment where I generally don't fear for my life when I travel. Like I literally don't. But then there was this one moment in Uganda where I was like, fuck, my life could end right now.
Really? What happened?
All it's going to, I hope my mum's not listening.
Oh, God.
So I had gone, the place that I was staying was kind of like in the center of this village. And I went to sleep and I got woken up at like 3 a.m. And my room was no joke, like not even a 1x1. A bed is all that could fit in this room. I didn't even have a room for my suitcase. Had like a hole for a toilet, like no shower. It was like a bucket of water that I'd have to like fill up. It was, yeah. And I get waken up at 3 a.m. on the Saturday morning and all I can hear is like things being thrown, tables being thrown, chairs, bottles breaking, and just screaming in Swahili. So I can't understand what they're saying. And I'm lying in my bed like, fuck, I don't know if this person that's just come blazing into this place is saying to these people, where is she? Like, where's the white girl? Where, like, I don't know. They could be. And all I can hear is just literally shit being broken. And I'm looking at this room and I'm like, I got nowhere to run. I'm in this place by myself. Like, there's no one else here except for the people that were working at the guest house. They call them guest houses. And I can see like footsteps trailing outside my door and this person just like screaming his head off. Then he left for about 20 minutes and I thought, okay, great, it's over. Comes back for an hour just like screaming. And I was just sitting there like, why am I scared? Like, why am I not freaking the fuck out? Why am I not panicking? Why am I not looking for objects? I was no shit just lying there. And this thought just popped into my head and was like, just breathe because you did not get sent here to die. That's not why you're here. And it was like this moment of, oh, okay. Like, no joke. Like, I could feel the fear. Like, I could see the fear, right? It was like two people in my head or in my body where it was like, Mon, you're fucking, what the hell? Like, you're freaking out. And then there's this other part that was like, you're safe, you're protected, nothing bad's going to happen to you. You're safe, you're protected, nothing bad's going to happen to you. And then this like feeling of just acceptance came over me where I was like, okay, if this was actually it, if this person barged into this room right now with an object and clunked me over the head and killed me, okay, what am I actually supposed to do right now? Or I just lay here and just wait for it to pass and nothing bad's going to happen. So I got my noise cancelling headphones and listened to classical jazz music whilst all this was happening outside. And I woke up in the morning and nothing happened. Like, it was fine. Nothing was even out of place. It was the strangest thing ever. But I told that story to a friend of mine when I got back. And she was like, you fucking idiot. I told you not to go to, like, why would you go by yourself, blah, 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 blah. And I just couldn't listen to her. I was like, listen, it's done. Nothing bad happened. Yeah. I will be more cautious, obviously, traveling to a place like that by myself in the future. But I was like, but there was just this moment of lying in my bed and having this acceptance of like, this is not how you will die. Like, don't worry, don't panic. There's nothing to stress about.
Did they say anything about it the next day?
Nothing. Like, nothing happened.
Did you ask?
I didn't ask because I was like, oh, well, fuck, it's not really my business. Like, they probably thought I was just like asleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like I could see like marks on the wall. So something had happened, but they just like obviously cleaned it up because I was staying there. But yeah, and then when I got back, I was like telling another lady this story and I just said to her, I'm like, that wave of acceptance of like not feeding into the narrative of the fear, I'm like, I think that's what faith is. Like, I had complete and utter faith that the reason that I was there was obviously not to die, but to have this better understanding of, you know your work, you know what you have to do, now go and fucking do it.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was like the moment where I was like, I think I understand what faith is. To me, like that's what it feels like to me. To somebody else, it could be completely different. But yeah. So now every time I like get overwhelmed or I feel panicked and I hear that voice that's like, you know the work, you know what you have to do, just do it. That's it. The rest is taken care of. Don't stress about it. So when it comes to money, like I was saying to you, I've got this massive bill that's coming my way. And I'm sitting here being like, how the fuck? But I'm like, it's fine because this is the work you're meant to be doing. And where there's a will, there's going to be a way and you'll figure it out. So yeah, I think the lesson out of all of it, if I tie it up, is when people say they're so confused and lost with what they want to do. I think if you have a vision of something and you can really understand the why behind it and the why is true to you as a person, the steps and the process follows. I think the task then becomes learning how to enjoy the process of becoming the person you want to be along the way towards that vision and just embracing every moment whilst you're on it. Because it's so easy to get caught up in the, how do I do it? How am I supposed to get this? You know, what's this look like to get to that end goal or that end vision? But if you forget to enjoy the process of becoming, you miss the whole point of the entire journey. And so for me now, I'm just enjoying the process. Like I was saying, it's chaotic as fuck right now. It's all over the shop. I'm like scattered. I feel like I'm getting nothing done. But one thing I'd said to Ange on the trip was, we're never going to have this time again. We're never going to have this moment again of going to Kenya for the first time and hearing these stories for the first time. And, you know, one day we'll be, you know, at a gala fundraising event or in a room with these really big, you know, people, or doing a TED talk or something, talking about this moment right now, because we're never going to get it again, but we're going to remember what it was like to just start and have no fucking idea of where this is going to go and how we're going to get it done. And she was like, that's a really good way to put it. I was like, this is the world I'm living in right now. Like every moment is just like, wow, it's the first time we get to experience this like this. Awesome. Like, what can we do with it? So yeah.
Yeah, wild. So, you know, you can just apply to do a TED Talk.
Can you? Actually, no, I didn't know that.
You should apply.
Yeah. But see, stuff like that, I still feel like I haven't done enough of where I want to get to do it. And it's not even like a procrastination thing. It's like I trust timing now. It doesn't feel like the right time.
Okay.
But I will do. TED Talk is actually on my bucket list to do. So it's going to get done. But yeah, I've stopped rushing everything to just do things these days, you know, like even with this whole charity being pushed back for when it's actually going to launch. It was meant to be September. Now that we're doing a completely different structure, it's going to take, you know, 9 months. Old me would have been like, nah, fuck that, like rush, like let's get it done. I said it was going to be September 1st. It has to be September 1st. Whereas now I'm like, you know what? No, it doesn't feel right. I'm rushing this. I'm running for no reason. I need to do this properly. Let's do it properly. So yeah, that's another kind of shift that sort of happened. I'm just like, I said to someone, I'm like, the way I describe it is I'm like this blob in the universe. I'm just like, whoa. And everything's just happening. And then I'm like, oh, I'll stick around here for a bit more. And then I just become a blob again. And yeah, I'm cool. I'm tired.
I love that. So what do you think the biggest win has been from this whole experience so far?
I feel like just rediscovering my love for my life. Like the other day, I went and got a coffee and just walked into this bookshop that I hadn't been to in a long time. And it was like the happiest moment of my life. No shit. Like, and as I was walking through the bookstore, I love going to bookstores because I feel a wave of inspiration. I don't know if you're the same, but like when you go into a good bookstore and it's like small and intricate and cozy, one, I feel like I just morph into a different like reality. But I almost feel like I can feel all the brains in the bookstore from all these people that had written, you know, books on topics or fantasy books or whatever. And I literally would just go in with no intent to even buy a book, and I'll just feel the pages and I'll like the smell of the book and whatever. And the other day I was in there and I just said to myself, I was like, if you told me tomorrow that I was going to Europe and I was going to have this incredible holiday, you know, going to go to all these incredible places, I'd probably still feel the same level of excitement and happiness as I do in this bookstore right now. No joke. No fucking joke. No word of a lie. And I think that this whole process, not just, you know, Africa, but like everything, the last 2 years of my life has gotten me now to a place where I realize I don't try to escape my reality, because I actually really enjoy my reality because I've created it. Like everything that I'm doing right now, I love it because it's solely mine. Like I am a manifestation of all these things that I've wanted over the last 10 years. And so now when I think to the future, I'm like, it's all going to happen because what I'm doing right now is leading me to that version of myself, is leading to me to all those things. So why do I feel like I have to run away or go on a holiday or a retreat or this or that when I can actually manifest that feeling of what it would feel like to do all those things right now in something as simple as going to a bookstore? Like, you know, and it'll be very different for people. I'm not saying everybody go buy a coffee now and go into a bookstore, and you're like, but I fucking hate reading. Well, then do something else. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's what's becoming more and more evident the more I have these experiences is, one, I'm so lucky with where I'm at. Two, I'm so fucking grateful for the people in my life at the moment, and these connections that I've made and continue to make from that. And I think three, my friend said this to me actually the other day. I'd showed her a presentation that I'm presenting to my team, and she starts laughing, and it was a creative manifesto that I created about like what I want people to think about when they're creating something that has to do with Always Away. And it's about having like the grit and that attitude, but doing it in a way where you want to bend the rules and break the rules and do things that people haven't done before. And as I'm reading it through to her, she starts laughing, and I'm like, what are you laughing at? And she's like, it's just funny seeing how much you've grown as a person. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I remember you used to do videos on this sort of stuff. But back then when you were saying it, you were still exploring it. You weren't fully embodying what you were saying. You were just at the start of going, I think this is what it means. I think this is from my understanding. But now that I've had the life experience to attach to those things that I was saying back then, I am that now. I'm living it. I'm breathing it. I don't have to sit and talk about, I'm talking about it right now, but I don't have to sit and talk about it anymore because I just embody it, and that's what gets projected out into the world. And, you know, that's why people sometimes say, I can relate to everything you say. I really engage with the things you have to say because it's no word of a lie. Like I can genuinely say, I have the experience to back the things that I say. Otherwise I wouldn't say it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't talk about it. I wouldn't sit there and pretend like I fucking know if I have no idea about, you know, whatever topic it is. So yeah, it's been a really exciting journey, and I just feel blessed. Like I genuinely, even like sitting here with you talking about this, knowing like everything that we did together, like that to me, there's every part of me is like, I had to absolutely do that. No part of me ever regrets saying yes to doing that, even if it was for a short time, because I learned so much from you and your experiences. I learned that I don't want to be a podcaster. Like, no, that's not a bad thing though. Yeah. Like you learned that you do want to be a podcaster. And we had to do it together to realize that. Like that's magic. That's beautiful. So it also made me reflect on like everything else that I've done in my life, where I sometimes question like, fuck, why did I actually like say yes to that? Because you had to. You had to do it in that moment at that time to learn whatever the hell you had to learn in order for the next thing to take place. So sitting there being like, oh, I shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that. If you took that thing out, I can guarantee you probably wouldn't be where you are right now. So yeah.
As long as you learn a lesson.
That's it. Yeah. As long as you learn, and it goes back to that whole, you've just got to enjoy the process of becoming, because you're going to have to make these sorts of choices and decisions to eventually become that version of yourself that you want to be. And if they're bad decisions, I don't really see things as bad decisions, but, you know, for whatever reason, you've got to take something from it, even if it's 1% of, you know, the actual lesson that's intended for you. The universe is going to come back and teach you the same fucking thing.
Until you learn it, yeah.
Exactly, until you learn it. And I mean, we always relate everything back to practices, but that's the importance of stuff like meditation. That's how you become more consciously aware of these sorts of things, you know? And I feel like now, I to be honest, I haven't meditated in a really long time. To sit there and close my eyes and breathe, and I don't do breath work anymore. I don't do any of it. I don't even shit on myself for not doing it anymore like I used to, because I'm like, there are other things right now that are teaching me the exact same things, but it's because I put the work in and the time in to do the meditation consistently for a period of time that I'm able to now just, you know, meditate in other ways, you know, whether it's cleaning or I don't know, whatever. So yeah, it's a good starting point, but it doesn't always mean that you have to do it forever, because you'll find other things that work for you, and those things might work better at different periods of time in your life, and that's okay. That's good. That's a good thing, you know. You don't have to just stick to one thing and then that's Bible forever. It's like, nah.
Yeah, exactly.
Nah.
So with the project, what do you think has been the biggest positive outcome so far?
I think putting the 13 girls through school, 6 of them would have, are you talking the actual project or?
Your contribution on the project so far.
So 6 of those girls would have missed out on an education had we not like been there to be like, yep, we can sponsor them on the dot. That was really cool. And I think also just being back in Kenya and actually seeing hope come alive as well was another pretty epic thing. And I think that's what I'm trying to show people, is that we've actually got the power to do that. Like to actually, not just for one person, but for an entire community, to instill hope in them. and show them that like we believe in you. Like we're going to help make this thing, you know, a sustainable process for you all so that, you know, your future generations are going to have something to live by, to work towards. And I think my thing at the moment is just leave a legacy, not just a memory.
Yep.
I don't want to just be a memory anymore. I don't want to just create memories. I want to leave something behind in this world that, you know, not for clout, not for my ego. It's like I want to leave something behind so other people can just continue it. And then it's creating a ripple effect, because I might not be the person like the, you know, Elon Musks of the world who are changing the world on this global, massive ass scale. But I can change the world of one person. That will create a ripple effect for them to go do the same for someone else. If we can change the lives of 168 people or more, that's huge. That's massive. So I think there's this overwhelming sense that people always go, I don't know how to help. I don't even know where to start. I don't know. Just start with one person. And that doesn't even need to be a kid in Africa. That can be someone that's here that you see all the time on the street. It could be a friend. It could be, you know, that random act of kindness that you show somebody who feels like they don't deserve it or they're not worthy. That can change a person's life. Like, and I say that because I've experienced that with young kids. At the moment, I'm coaching boxing just because it's a break from everything. Like I don't have to think. I'm just focused on this one person for 30 minutes. And I'm coaching young girls and seeing the progress that they make just confidence-wise, just because they've spoken to me and I've proven to them that they're strong enough to hit a pad and there's a fire in them. And then seeing their progression. I'm not really doing anything. I'm just showing them what they can't see in themselves.
If you can see it, you can be it.
Exactly. And that to me is, you know, empowering. That to me is what I'm trying to do with the kids in Kenya, like to empower them and to show them that like, mate, fuck like what cards you've been dealt in life, take them and just do something with them.
Well, I mean, you don't know whether one of those 100 kids is the Kenyan Elon Musk. Like you don't actually know.
You don't.
You have no idea.
You have no idea. Exactly right. Exactly right. So,
and human society will move in a better direction the more people have opportunity for education.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know what little click spark that will just change a lot. So yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, there's a little note that I've been thinking of lately, and it just kind of ticks in my head whenever I'm making small decisions. It's like, leave everywhere you go a little bit better than how you found it.
Damn straight.
So even just to the smallest things, like I'm just walking past some rubbish or something, I'll just pick it up, put it in the bin.
Yeah.
Or I'm in a room and I'm not doing anything, but I see like a painting a little bit lopsided, I'll go and straighten it. Just like it can be tiny things.
Exactly. But it's that mentality of like just 1% every day. Be better, 1% better every day. Do more 1% every single day. That doesn't mean like going out and changing. That means fixing a painting, picking up a piece of rubbish. That, you know, you can make it as big or small as you want. I just think we have a habit of, and it's a comparison thing, because you see someone else doing something and you're like, well, my contribution isn't as big as that, so I'm just not even going to try. But it's like, well, it ends up being a compounding effect. The more little things you try to change and do, the better it starts to feel, the better you start to feel because you're doing a good thing. The more good you start doing, the more it gets reciprocated, the more it happens over time. And yeah, so it's a lot of lessons have been taught in the last few months for me, but all I'm feeling and seeing is honestly that compounding effect of like work that I've just been putting in for the last 10 or 15 years, from marketing to filmmaking to this to that. And it's led me to this now, using all my skill sets to actually do it for a bigger purpose, something that's bigger than just me.
Well, you are wonderful at those skills, and you know I've seen that firsthand. So
thank you.
It seems like it's going to be used for a very, you know, positive thing.
Yeah.
And you've inspired me. Like I'm like, I need to be better at this, because I see what you do and I see how well you do it, and I see the power of the storytelling that you do, and I'm like,
thank you. I appreciate. I do genuinely appreciate that, and I'm really grateful. Like I said, doing the podcast with you for those few months that we did do it, because I mean, if I'm going to go down to a skill set level, even having to churn out all that content, like I learned so much how to be quick and efficient in doing stuff like that. Like you're always learning. That's the amazing thing. Like that's why you should just do shit. Even if like you're like, oh, I don't know if I should do this, just try. And if it's not the right thing, Leave it and go do something else.
The risks are low. I've had some experiences of just doing shit when the risks are high. can be a little bit problematic. But yeah, if there's like minimal risk and maybe just some time, you're always going to learn something.
Exactly. I know it was funny because I've been thinking about this actually for a little while now. We sort of spoke about it before the podcast where when people ask me like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, well, don't I do everything? I feel like I'm wearing 50 fucking hats at the moment. And I remember a time where I used to think that was a really bad thing because I grew up being told you had to be one thing and one thing only. And if you kept changing too often, it would mean that you weren't reliable, you weren't consistent, you weren't going to succeed because you don't have the attention span to just focus on this one thing. Fuck that. Like, I look at everything that I'm doing now and I think I've found a place where everything entwines so nicely that everything benefits the other.
Yeah.
And it comes back to that whole idea of you've got to also enjoy the play. Like you've got to find time to just, like a kid, have playtime where it might have nothing to do with anything. I've started revisiting my sci-fi novel that I wrote like 3-4 years ago, but the story's been in my head since I was 13. And I'm finding joy in it. But it's got nothing to do with anything that I'm doing, but does it? It does, because the character development that I'm currently doing with these characters has changed so much based on my own life experiences that I can now contribute to this. And then in the process of developing these characters, I'm like, fuck, that's actually like a person in my life that I have to deal with every single day. How would that character deal with this person? And then I apply it to my life with these people and I'm like,
see,
it's all just entwined.
Yeah. I think the future is going to be for the generalists because AI and all this technology is going to be very good at very specific tasks, but not great at general understanding of things. And I came across this idea a while ago that spoke about the challenge from going from the top, say, 20 to 10% of a skill set to the top 1% is very, very hard. Like it's not that hard to go from 0 to say 70 to 80 is, gets more challenging. But once you get to those higher end points, it gets really tough. But it's the people who can be top 80% in one thing, top 80% in another thing, 3 or 4 different things. They are then the top 1% in that combination 100%. Of tasks.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that's kind of where you're moving in the direction of. Yeah. You're likely, in the top 1% of people with content understanding who can, work in the not-for-profit space and, lead a team.
Sure.
That's
for sure. It's definitely something that I've been thinking about so much lately because of, like I said, all the things that I am currently doing, but they all, benefit each other. They all complement one another. And so I become more of a valuable asset because I have skill sets in all these different areas and criterias and things. And I'm kind of lucky because now the industry that I'm in that used to get shit on for so many years is now is the thing that needs to.
I sent you a TikTok. I don't know if you saw it, but it was like the future is to the storytellers because all content is storytelling now. And
I said, I think I said this in a podcast. I said this years ago that when 2020 came along and coincidentally TikTok comes along when the world shuts down and we're all inside and, our attention spans are fucking like a peanut. Our attention spans got shorter and you saw the hype and the rise of all these, TikTokers and all that using short form content that didn't require much skill at all to do anything, whether it was from an editing point of view or actual talent point of view, skyrocketed. Awesome, great. They made a bunch of money. They're probably really famous now, blah, 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 blah. But like everything, it hits a wall and people fucking get over it because now it's just all too common. So we're still in that wave of, short form reels, blah, blah, blah. People don't have time, blah, blah, blah. But I'm telling you now, it will get to a point where we're going to get so sick of ourselves that we're going to revert back to the people that are actually putting in a little bit more time and effort into actually telling a story. Because people will want to be a part of something bigger than just themselves. So in a way, I look at this charity that I'm starting and the way that I want to do it. And I'm like, I'm at that critical point now Like I'm at the beginning of what the fucking internet was back in 19, like I feel that from a charity NGO point of view, no one's doing anything the way that I want to do it. I went to a gala last night, fundraising gala, and I was like, fuck, there's so much more that I'm going to be doing that these people have never even seen before. Like, because it's just not a concept you would affiliate with a charity and a fundraising gala. But I'm like, but why not? Why can't I be the one to test the boundaries? Why can't I be the person who does that thing for the first time that no one's ever seen? I'm going to be that person. I can already see it. So yeah, it's a very interesting time for people who are content creators. My advice and because I'm kind of back in that marketing space at the moment, my advice is always to people, you have a choice as someone who, you know, if you want to grow a personal brand, you have to make a choice from the very beginning. Do you want to sell your soul? Because if you want to do that, go the short form content route. Do the posting every day, fucking, you know, just anything, just get anything out, and maybe the algorithm might enjoy it, and then you might get a bit of, fine, do that. That's sweet. But if you're somebody that wants to actually cultivate community and have an engaging community that's loyal, again, speaking from experience with my YouTube channel, who you put something out into the world that you're super, super, super passionate about, they're going to get around it because they know you. Like you've grown and fostered that relationship with them. Like you haven't lied to them about who you are and what you want to do. A client that we had recently with our media company, he said, the first thing he said to me was, I hate social media. But he wants to be a personal brand on social media. And I said to him, okay, that's fine, because I don't really like social media either. But you're going to have to make a choice, because if we go down the route of trying to get all your videos to go viral, we'll do it. Like I know how to do it. We can do it. But you already hate social media. You're going to hate this process a lot. And you'll hit a wall with it where you'll go, this doesn't feel real. This doesn't feel authentic. Why am I doing this? Or we can give it a little bit more time. We can really nurture you as a person on social media, as a brand, as, you know, a leading chiro in this space and blah, 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 blah. It's going to take time. You're not going to see the instant gratification and validation in a month. I'm telling you now. But if your goal is to convert more ticket sales to get people at your event, then I'm telling you now what's going to work is doing it the slow burning way. Because, and I've seen it happen with so many people that come to me and they're like, why isn't it working? Like I'm selling these promos for, you know, a course or this or that or that. And I'm like, because it looks pretty fucking dumb when you have 127,000 followers and only 7 people are rocking up to your event. Because no one gives a shit, because all your content has literally drowned people that they don't care. They don't care. They see that you're not putting the effort in. Why should they take 5 minutes of their day to sit there and watch your video? Like, why? So, yeah, it's interesting now because I can see it happening. I'm seeing the real people that are putting effort into story. And that doesn't mean cinematic videos. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you're a filmmaker, video, YouTuber, whatever, or just someone who wants to make reels, if you are actually thinking about the content that you're putting out there, it will transmute, it will translate. And people will trust you and people will build that bond with you. And then anything that you sell to them, anything you do, they're going to get behind it. If I can get $30,000 in 30 days just by posting YouTube videos, not even consistently, it was sporadic, with my, I think at the time I only had like 4.2 thousand subscribers, and I had one person donate $15,000 who I've only met once and lives on the other side of the world to me, like, I'm doing something right. I have to be doing something right. So yeah, it's always really interesting when I have these conversations with people because they both work, right? But it's just if you want this to be a long-term thing, if longevity is your thing, if you want to be doing this forever, you've got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy it, because if you don't, why the fuck are you doing it? Yeah. So yeah.
Love it. Love it. So how can people help you contribute to the project?
So right now, like I said, it's a bit tricky because the website and stuff isn't up to actually sponsor a child. If you're super like intrigued and you really, really want to sponsor a child, best to just reach out to me, whether it's on Insta or...
and what are your handles?
So at Monique Medved or at Always Away Project. If you reach out to me directly, I can give you the actual steps to directly sponsor a child. And you pretty much with that will get like a welcome pack. You'll get basically an update every term on how the child that's been selected for you is progressing. You get their report card. You get a letter from them sent to your email. Just so you can kind of see where they're at. Otherwise, it's just awareness at the moment. Like I feel at the end of this month, we're going to start really hitting it hard and making sure that we're just going to keep sharing stories of, you know, all the stuff that we captured in April. And yeah, I think it's just for me getting the awareness out at the moment because when we launch, we'll do it hard and fast. But it's just the paperwork and the legalities of it all that makes it.
But once it's done, it's done.
Once it's done, it's done. Exactly. We'll be more than just a charity. We'll be a global aid fund.
Brilliant. And if you want help with the galas, I do run events. So.
True. Keep you in my back pocket.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know me by now. It's not going to be like your normal.
I know.
Oh, we're going to sit down and we're going to.
No,
Fuck that.
There's no fun in that. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the
Thanks
pod, Mon. It's good to have you back.
It's nice being back.
Yeah, and
you're doing a good job, by the way.
I haven't done anything yet.
But I know how stressful it is, and the fact that you're pursuing it and doing it is like credit to you and who you are as a person. And it's fucking hard, as you would know, but the persistence and the consistency, like you'll get 10 times better at it. So
I feel like it's an opportunity to force myself to learn a new skill that 100%. I think will be valuable in the long run.
100%. And if that is your outlook on it now, then you'll succeed.
Yeah. And also I feel like becoming a good interviewer and becoming empathetic as an interviewer will probably be valuable just in my life in general. Yeah. So that's how I'm kind of looking at it.
100%.
And if I can go viral one time, maybe that'd be nice too. But if not, we'll see.
But as long as you love it and enjoying the process, like that's all that matters.
The fun thing about podcasts as well is I'm noticing it gives access to people that would not spend 2 hours with you because you put a microphone in front of them and they want to talk. I can just ask them whatever questions I want. And I'm talking to someone who's like well above my batting average just because we're in this format. So
100%.
I'm also using it as an opportunity to just get mentor, like, you know, a couple of hour mentor session with somebody who might charge you 20 grand or something. I don't know.
For sure.
But they love it and it's fun.
Yep.
So yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Mon.
Thank you.
Until next time.
See ya. Thanks for listening.
Of course.